Welcome, everyone. You're in the right place to see what's new in IMAGINiT Utilities for Revit 2020 with your presenter, Carl Storms. Carl, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jana. Welcome, everyone. As you heard Jana say, we are going to be talking about the Utilities for Revit 2020. So let's get started. And now that PowerPoint's working, we're really going to get started. So we're going to take a look at what's in the 2020 utilities. And as we've been saying, there's been some big changes, some big additions, and a big change to how we deliver the utilities. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to sort of briefly show you or speak about all the utilities that are included in our package. We're over 40 now inside of our great utilities package for Revit. So in this little tiny hour, we're not going to have time to speak to them all, but we are going to talk about what's new for 2020. And then I'm going to sneak in a little link to a great YouTube video that talks about all of the other ones as well. So you can sort of get two for the price of one today. Then we're going to be brave. We're going to try to do a live demo. We all know how live demos work out. So we're going to put on our big boy pants and we're going to make that demo rock and roll, ask some questions, and then we will be on our way. So let's begin. That fine-looking fellow there on the screen with the hat, that's me. My name's Carl Storms. I'm a solutions consultant here in IMAGINiT in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I've been in the industry since '98, done a little bit of everything to do with BIM and VDC and all of that great stuff. And now that you know who I am, let's carry on. So we're talking about the Revit utilities from IMAGINiT. As you can see from the slide there, we're now over 40 tools inside of this great package. It's one of the many things that we create, including our Clarity product and our Pulse product. Be sure to check those out as well. We have support for all the disciplines in here, even though it's now just Revit. We no longer get the individual workflows. Some of the tools support all the different disciplines that are in place. Sadly, no LT support here. But if we take a look, and as I mentioned, we now have a very full tab on our ribbon with all of the goodies that come with the new and improved Revit add-in for 2020. One of the first things that I will talk about, and one of the biggest changes for this year, is in the past years when there's been an update to our utilities, basically any of the new functionality would only be for that year. Lots of reasons why that happened in the background, but essentially, you know, we would create new things in 2016, and then they would carry over into 2017 with a couple of new features, and then those features would carry over in 2018 with a couple of new features, and I think you get the picture there. What we were able to do, or what we have done for the 2020, is we've put everything together into one package, including some of the great products that came with our ASI tools. All into one great product that goes all the way back to 2016. So that means if you download the new Revit Utilities 2020, it comes in one installer, and it supports all the way back to 2016. So that means you can install them for all 40 plus. There's one caveat, and I'll talk about this in a second. All 40 plus tools all the way back to 2016. So that means all of the new features that we're going to learn about today are also available in 19, 18, 17, 16. So that's the big news for 2020 is the fact that it's now one installer for all of your Revit utility needs and wants, as we could say. So taking a look, and I'm not going to go through and I'm not going to read every single utility that's included, but these first couple slides are going to show all the utilities that are included in the package from 2019 back to 2016. So some of the ones that we know and love, the family placement tool, which was new last year, the ability to adjust our pipe, which has been updated to not just adjust pipe, but also to include the ability to adjust conduit and duct. So I think we're working with scan data, and we're bringing in and we can make adjustments to that. We have the ability to have direct support. That's a nice feature. It's maybe not a utility per se by itself, but if you have any issues or comments, you have a direct link to the support for all of the utilities that we have. We have the ability to translate, and this is one of those fun to play with utilities that we have. It is powered by Google Translate. There's over 50 languages that it can translate now, and it works very slick. The caveat there is that it is powered by Google Translate. So you might want to make sure that if you're working with a client and you're translating from English to, we'll say French, that someone that speaks French just verifies that Google got it right before you send it out to the client. Change case, that's now put in, but it's a little bit slicker than what we have been out of it. All of our renumber tools, so room renumber, element renumber, door mark renumber, awesome little tools that we have into play. And then we get into one that a lot of people talk about, even though Google Earth isn't quite as popular as it once was. We still have the Earth connector for Revit, which allows you to take your model with a few simple clicks and stick it inside of your Google Earth model when you're walking with your client. So it's really cool for them to be able to see what they're paying for, the building that they want, dropped directly in Google Earth exactly where it's going to be. So that's one of the cool features that's still around. In fact, they're all still around. They're all lovely things that we have there. And don't forget, stick around to the end and we'll give you that link to the YouTube video that goes through all of these in a little more detail. So the main part of the show, why we're all here, the new features for 2020. So we have the family processor. This is a handy little tool that allows us to tweak things inside of a family or families, as it says, to automate across several Revit projects. So it allows us to sort of Revit families. So this allows us to add things like shared parameters, family parameters, project parameters into a family or multiple families very quickly through a few clicks of a button. So if you've ever had to add in, 15 shared parameters to 100 different families, you know that can be a very tedious task. This makes that a much more user-friendly task. Fire rating coordinator, the name kind of says it all. It's a way that we have the ability to make sure that all of our fire rating parameters are on the same page with each other. Match instance parameters. So this is kind of like the magical match properties button, except now we're matching instant parameters. The note block creator. So if we have a family inside of our project that we're using for creating note blocks, and we want to be able to change these and add these very quickly on the fly, we can do this through the note block creator. Text find and replace. There is functionality inside of the new and improved text editor that we got in 2017, and I believe it was there before that we can find and replace our text. And it does a fairly good job. What this tool does is it gives us the ability to find and replace text as well as other types of fonts inside of our project. A big one is names of rooms, so that if you need to change room to office or office to lab, you can use this find and replace to do that with either what you've selected, the current view, or the entire project. And again, it's not just text like as in note text. We also have the ability to do that with our room names, which is a cool little feature. Room surface parameter extractor, that is a mouthful. This allows us to pull information from our rooms and then put it back in to it. So essentially what that means is we select the surfaces in our room, ceiling, wall, floor, and then we can pull the information from those and put them into the rooms. So if you think about it inside of your properties palette, there's all those locations where we have the ability to have, wall type, ceiling type, that sort of thing. This allows us to take new shared parameters, extract information from what already exists in our project, walls, ceilings, floors, and then put that inside the room themselves so that we can read all this information from the rooms. Sheet number update, super simple tool that does exactly what it says, allows you to very quickly update sheet numbers in a schedule-like environment. It also allows us to quickly close those gaps. So if we have to delete a couple things, or if we're working from a template and we have some existing sheets that we're not going to use, we can very quickly, bada boom, bada bing, get those sheets out of place. Now, if we flip on to the next page here, the sheet view duplicator, we've done a bang-up job naming these because they really do exactly what they say. We have the ability to duplicate a sheet and either just duplicate and name it the way we want, or if we want to bring a view on it that already exists, we can do that as well. And since we just created new sheets and we've got things set in place, one of the things that I hear requests for all the time is the ability to line up our views on our sheets so that level 1 lines up with level 2, lines up with level 3. So we can do that with the viewport lineup tool. Now, the caveat here, or the thing that I want to make clear, is that what's actually driving all of this is the crop boundary. So we do have to have some similarity with how we put the crop boundary around our views. If one happens to have a really big crop boundary, the crop boundary is going to be lined up, but the view itself, maybe not exactly. We come to our inspect objects. This allows us to sort of get into the database inside of Revit. So we can review information without having to go to a bunch of different places, without having to actually go into the family, without actually having to get into the property. It just allows us to peek into the database, the black box of your Revit model, if you will. The spreadsheet aggregator is another tool that allows us to get into schedule-like information and push it back and forth to Excel. One of the really cool things about this tool is it gives us a little preview. So it gives us sort of an on-the-spot Excel, or I should say spreadsheet-like environment so that we can see the data. We can edit the data in this environment. And one of the coolest things that I haven't seen anywhere else is the fact that it has the ability to have multiple tabbed spreadsheets. So that means we can have several different pieces of information that we're looking on multiple spreadsheets at the same time and interact with it in a live environment. I'm doing air quotes just in case you can't see that for live environment. Fabrication parts. This is for our MEP friends. And this is the little caveat that I said about going back to 2016. The fabrication parts, because they didn't exist in 2016. So this one only goes back to 2017. The rest will take you all the way back to 2016. Place families along a curve. And in this instance, we're using the coding version of curve. So basically any line element that you select inside of the project, you can place families along that in several different ways. Then we get into the truly nerdy stuff, journal files, going to places like AU and the Build conferences. There's been a lot of classes. Brian Mackey does an awesome one talking about how to get information out of journal files. And while you still need to know how to handle the information that's in the journal files, this makes life a lot easier to access and to read and see the journal file. And it's really cool because we have the ability to do this through the Revit model, and we'll see this when we jump into the demo here in just a second. So we can review the journal file of the active Revit project we're in. We can choose a different journal file to review, or there's actually a desktop shortcut that comes with the utilities that you don't even have to have Revit open, that you can click the journal file reader and read what any Revit journal file that you want without even being in Revit. So that's super cool. And the last one, some may not call it an add-in. I think it's awesome. I think it's my favorite part of the whole new things, but it's the utilities part of the tab, which allows us to actually choose which utilities stay on the tab. So now that we have over 40 utilities inside of there, maybe there's some that we're just not going to use. Maybe there's some that we want to hide. Maybe we want to reorganize the tab. We can do all of that with the little utilities button. It's also your one-spot stop to get to the help menu for all of the utilities that are in place. Whew, all right. That was a lot of talking. So now we're going to go through a couple more slides quickly and then jump into the live demo action. So how do you get the utilities, you ask? Well, I'm glad that you asked. Well, you can go to the IMAGINiT website and you can look for the software and click on the utilities. We have a bunch of different utilities there. We're focusing on the IMAGINiT Revit utilities. Anyone can download a free 14-day trial. We're also going to make this PowerPoint available for anyone that wants at the end, that has all of these links, so you can just click on the link and you're right there. We talked about the 2019. Jim does an awesome job on this presentation to go through all of the features. So There's over 40 now. At the end of 2019, we released that, we were up to 27. So I'm going to cover from 28 to, I think it's technically 42 today. And Jim covers 1 to 27 in this video here. So if you thought, hey, that Earth connector looked really cool, or I'm wondering how do we take advantage of that adjust pipe, maybe the new font thing, all of those answers can be delivered here inside of the video. Now we are going to cross our fingers, dot our I's, and jump into a live demo. So just give me a second while I stop the PowerPoint. Oh, look at that. So here we are inside of Revit, and I'm inside of the IMAGINiT Utilities tab, and we can see all of the utilities. One of the things that I did with my favorite part, the little Utilities app, if I select on this, it pulls up the little dialog box that allows us to update the utilities and the way they look. So I hit show, and then we see each column. There's 12 columns. We see each thing that's inside each column, and if there's a drop down, it shows everything that's inside there. And we could simply select something. I'm going to just go down here and say, for example, support, and then I could right click and just say hide utility. I'm not going to do it right now, but I could say hide utility, and then it would appear underneath the hide tab. If I didn't want, well, actually, let's just show that. I could say hide utility, and now you'll see that it is hidden. I decide that I want to have that back. I can simply just grab it, drag it back where it goes, and it pops up back in place. Now, nothing actually changes on the ribbon until you say save, and then shut down and restart Revit. Once you shut down and restart Revit, everything reorganizes itself. And for those that are a very keen eye, this is where you hit help to bring up all the help for everything about Revit. And you can see we've got all the stuff here that comes into place. Very handy little tool. And you may have also noticed that I have, in fact, actually changed the interface compared to what was on the PowerPoint slide that I showed. I've made it so that all of the new features are at the left-hand side, so I can just go through the list and get all the new features, and once I've got to the end, I know I've completed them all. So already using the new features for 2020 inside of our demonstration here. So let's get started with what we can do with the new features. So first I'm going to go to my renumbers, and in here we see sheet number update. So I select this, it pulls up my little sheets, and we see the original sheet, and we see the new sheet. And I can just simply select on it and say B1, it updates. Now I'm going to go through and just do them all, B2, B3, this one should be B4, and then B3. And say OK, and you'll see down here that my sheet number changed. And if I scroll down, you'll see we've got all of our sheets. If I go in here and this sheet accidentally gets deleted, or on purpose, however the case may be, we'll see that we've got B1, B2, B4. And as I mentioned, we do have the ability inside here, sheet renumbers, to fit the gap. And basically what you do is you have to tell it where the gap is. So I select B2, hold down Control to do multiple select, like everything inside of Revit. Hit B4, so those two are highlighted. And you'll see 1, 2, 3, OK. And now you'll see that I've got B1, B2, and B3. So quick tool, does as advertised, a quick way to make changes, especially if we just have 1 or 2 of those that are done, and we've got, 50 sheets, and it's the 25th sheet. There's no easy way to do that. Very quick way to make that adjustment and make everything sort of fall into line. Let's take a look at the spreadsheet aggregator. Right here underneath the Excel portion, it is one of the Excel tools. Shameless plug, if you do spend some time later on today, maybe taking a look at that 2019 tools, the room content import is super cool. It basically allows you to have an Excel sheet that has a bunch of, let's say, families that you need inside a room. Think of a room data sheet for a hospital, and you can just automatically place all of those families in your room. It does place in the center of the room, so there's some cleanup required, but it very quickly puts all of that content into your project, so definitely worth taking a look. So with our spreadsheet aggregator, aggregator. So this is what it looks like. And as you can see, we've got all of our categories in place here. I'm going to just select my architectural ones. So now we've got our architectural ones. Everyone knows and loves doors, so I'm going to select my doors, add it into place. So now we've got our door category. We put it into place, and now it shows us all of the parameters for doors. And you'll see they're nicely color-coded, that anything that is green is an instance parameter. Anything that is blue is a type parameter. We can add them to the parameters we want. Very similar to what you might be used to and know from working with schedules. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my mark, my level, and fire rating. So we put these in place, and let's just throw in comments just because. So now I've got all of my information in place. Now for the cool part. Nothing up my sleeves, as they say. I'm going to hit Show Preview. And what Show Preview does, always on the other screen, by the way, brings in this little spreadsheet emulator. So now we see we've got all of the information that we did. So we've got the element ID, we've got the family type, we've got the mark, got the level, fire rating, and then comments. So we've got all of that information here inside of us. And what we can do is we can just save this out as an Excel. So I just hit save, brings up a thing, my doors, save, and we've now put that out into the project. Or not into the project, we save it as Excel, and we can do whatever we want with that Excel information. One of the other really cool things is that we can do some live editing here. So let's see that this one here, instead of 300, so I just double clicked. I could also select on something and say edit, and it gives me the ability to choose what it is that I want to edit. And I'm going to go back to my 300, and I'm going to say, okay, this is now going to be 999. And then I say apply. Active worksheet, because again, we can have multiple worksheets going here. So I say apply, finished applying, move these out of the way. And why did it update? Oh, I know why it didn't update. Because when I was testing this earlier, I overwrote the mark and I had two doors with the number 300. So let's go to 125. 1,000. Apply. And there we go. And we'll also see that once I hit apply again, that it updated inside the view to 999 and 1,000. So lots of tools out there. We even have our other exporting and importing tool that work with Excel. To me, the magic here is the fact that we have the ability to have that little preview and do the live editing inside of there. So for those that are more familiar with like an Excel type of editing, we can do that in place. We can also save these out. So I can say save settings. It saves as a little JSON. Save. And then I'm just going to close out of here. And if I bring it back in, it's empty. And I say, okay, I'm going to load in settings, navigate to that particular setting, open, and it brings it into place. Now, right now, it just shows doors. Once I select it, it'll show the rest of the stuff, but it also automatically opens up my preview, and I can see all the information is right there for me. And if I just select the doors, it shows me all the things that I wanted to play. So very cool tool. The next one we'll take a look at is the Journal Reader. So we'll see right here, Journal Reader. I select that, and it's going to give me all the information about the current project that I'm in. And you can see there's lots of super exciting stuff in here, and I've been scrolling for 20 minutes, and there's all sorts of stuff. So a lot of things can be found in the journal. But we also have the ability to filter, because that makes life a little bit easier. So maybe I only want the errors. So I select errors, and now it shows me the errors. So now I can get directly to what I'm looking for and be more specific with what I want, and I can move on from there. I go back to all. One of the other cool things is we can do find text. So I'm looking for, let's see, release. No, let's say 18. Should be lots of things to say 18. So I want to go from where I am down. I say OK. And you can see that it's now here. I say OK. It's now here. I say OK. So basically, it'll sort through each thing that you've asked it for in the order that you want. So I want to go from the beginning, from where I am down, from where I am up, and it will sort through the journal file in the order that you asked, showing you the information that you requested from it. So again, it's a really good way that if you're working with journal files, again, not everybody's going to be, but if you are working with journal files, that you can slice and dice the information the way that you want and be able to see it. I'm just going to close out of this. And I'm going to close this just to see that there is, in fact, a little screen icon that pops into place that just says Revit Journal Reader. So I'm not going to close Revit because I have to reopen it, but in theory, even without Revit being open, I can select this and I have access to this functionality. File, open. You navigate to wherever you have your journal file. So I just happen to have one in place here that's different than the file that I'm in. And now I have access to all the information inside of my journal. So again, I'm going to view all of my errors, and there I go. So I'm reviewing a journal file from Revit without needing to be in Revit. That has nothing to do with the current Revit project that's open, and then I can slice and dice the information the way that I want. So it's a very cool tool. Think of it as like Notepad++ for your Revit journal files. So cool stuff. Let me pop back open my Revit file here. All right, 1 row down, 4 to go. So text, find, and replace. So we select text, find, and replace. Again, it looks very similar to what you may have seen in other software. But again, for me anyways, the big difference here is the fact that you can bring room information into this equation. It's not just your notes or your pieces of text. So find text, let's say office. I don't have to match the whole word. I don't have to match the case. So, I'm not using the capital O inside the active view. So I say find. In this case, there's only one. Now, I could sort by all types or just room name. In this case, it's sort of the same thing. Replace with water closet, which is too bad. That guy's office is being turned into a water closet. And I say replace selected, and we see that it's replaced. And if I go to the second floor, we quickly pop onto the second floor, and you'll see that there is several offices there. They weren't touched because I chose current view only. Same thing inside of here, find and replace, office, Bob's rooms, and there we go. And it does the exact same thing if we have just regular text. Back into our IMAGINiT, find and replace. Hello. Goodbye. There we go. Again, not earth-shattering with what it does, but the functionality is very cool in the fact that it brings room names into equations. Again, having worked on some large hospital and airport projects, so many rooms, so many names, and even just things change, so can be very beneficial. Next on our list, the room surfaces parameters tool. So I'm going to go back to my first floor. We select this, and it shows what we have in here to be able to play with. So you can see we've got ceilings, we've got floors, we've got walls, windows, doors. Where it's pulling the information from, so the name of the window, the sill height of the window, the material inside of the wall, what the room parameter is named. So this is kind of cool as well. Now, I already have these room parameter names created as shared parameters, and you can see that it works with rooms or spaces. So if you're doing the architectural with rooms or the MEP with spaces, it works the same thing. And then we have the ability to choose how we want this information to come into play. So if I go to, say, floor structure, I can say the first in the list, so the first item in the list, the last item in the list, or common delimiter, which means that if there's 3 items in the list, it'll separate a comma and put them both in place. So you can choose what you want. Now, before I click OK, I'm going to select the cafeteria. And we're just going to slow down. And you can see that we already have, because I've created the shared parameters, they're all in here, but there's no information inside of it. So I go back to room shared parameters. I've got them all selected. You can choose the ones you do or don't want. All spaces and rooms in view. Say OK. It does some thinking. Now, the other cool thing is if when you click this button for the first time, because those shared parameters have to be that specific name, if you don't have them in place, it'll say, hey, the ceiling height shared parameter isn't in your shared parameter file. Do you want to add it? Yes or no? And it will go through each one that's not there, and you choose which ones you want to add, and it will automatically add it to your current shared parameter file. So now that I've got this in place, I can select, actually, let's go to this one because this one's got windows. We scroll down, so you can see it's got my ceiling height now, my finishes, which aren't super exciting in this model, my window head height, the name of the window, my SOAR, my sill height. So all of those things, just it pushes it into the room, and we have access to that information very quickly. So again, it's a cool tool that takes the information based on those things from the properties that are already in the project and allows you to push it into these new parameters inside of your room. So sheet and view duplicator. If I scroll down and look at my sheets, so we've got our now B1, B2, and B3 with nothing on it. Select the tool. It says you need to be in a view first. I should have known better. So I double click, and now I'm in my sheet. Select my view duplicator. And now we have our sheet. So we can call it whatever we want. D1 for my demo plan. Demo plan. Listing the view that's on there is the first detail, the first view, and this is what it's called. I can just hit duplicate like right now, and you can see I now have D1 demo plan, and there's nothing on it. Quick way to create a sheet, named and numbered as you want. If you want to do that same functionality, but you need a copy of the view, you can say, click the same icon. I'm going to call this F1. Now, if you're going to be duplicating a view, it can't be the same name. We know that from just the way that Revit works. So we either have to give it a prefix or a suffix, and then we can do whatever we want. So the default is suffix duplicated, but maybe I want to say prefix and say CS in front of it and a little dash. Now, if I want to bring a view, I can duplicate the view. I can duplicate with detailing. I can duplicate as dependent. I'm going to say duplicate view. I say duplicate. So now it's creating a new sheet, and it's also putting the view on the sheet. So it's the exact same view on the sheet. And if we scroll up, we also have the view. So now we can start adding furniture to our view. VG, turn on my furniture. And then I go back to my plan, which I'm still not used to the tabs up here. Go back to my plan, and boom, there's my furniture, and I'm off to the races. So again, stuff that we've always been able to do, it's just in a more user-friendly form factor, and we can choose how we want to do it. So that is your sheet and view duplicator. So now it brings to our viewport lineup tool. So I'm going to select this bad boy, and I'm going to move it over. So it's clearly in a spot where it should not be. And then I'm going to go to my default floor plan, which is the exact same view where I'd like it to be lined up. So now I go to my viewport lineup tool, wait for it to open up on the wrong screen, of course. And so now we can choose the view we want to align with, and it gives us a little preview. And we can choose which plan we want to align with. So those are my floor plans that I have. I'm going to go with this one. I can choose which view. Now, in this case, there's only one view. If I had selected the sections view, for example, there's 3 or 4 views on there. So then I would have had multiple different views that I could have selected to line up with. Now, the views that I want to line up with. So I'm going to go back to here. Oops, this one there. So now I've got it set up. I choose which one I want it to line up with. I say line up. Alignment complete. Close. Furniture. Boom. Now we're aligned. And that one worked spectacularly well because we used the other tool to copy the view. And that means that our crop regions are in the exact same spot, so it works wonderfully. Use those two tools together, and you get the expected result that you're working for. So 2 for the price of 1 if you want to go down that road there. All right, let's go back into our view here and our inspect objects. So this is our little black box tool. If we want to dive down into what exists inside of the data, inside of our basically visual database that Revit is. So I choose inspect. It takes a little while to go through and sort all the stuff that's available. You can resize these. So if you need a little more room, you can make it bigger so you have access to all the stuff that's available. What do I want to look at? Selected, entire project, active view. Entire project is going to take a long time to generate that tree, so I'm not going to do that here. But let's just select a few doors and say current selection. And as luck would have it, or maybe not, they happen to all be the same type of door. So we can scroll down and find all the information. You can see that it's the same door. We've got a bunch of instances to it. So pretty exciting stuff. Well, not really because I selected all the same stuff. You know, we can choose by level, work set, zone, space room, all that stuff as well. I'll go back to the active view so that we see a little more things. Now you see all the things that we can sort of start exploring or navigating inside of. So maybe we go to our walls. There we go. And then it brings up our walls. So now we see we've got, you know, a whole bunch of walls that are available. And they're all selected. So we've got basic walls, different types, different versions. Love watching the blue wheel. And so now we've got our more blue wheel. Got them all selected, and you'll see it was selecting and deselecting. We can then open our query form, and this now allows us to see the information about those specific walls. So I can select the wall, I go into the type, I can find things about the type that we want about it. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see. I can go into the instance, what's the area, and then it gives me a list of those 60 different walls and all the different areas of all those different particular walls. I also want to see any base offset, any base constraint, and so now we have access to all of that information. And while it's really cool that we can see that and sort of delve through this, once we have everything in place, we can also just very quickly export all of that information out to an Excel file. Boom. So now all that information that we wanted to pull out, we were able to dive into the little black box, find the information that we want, and then kick it out to an Excel file to do with as we need. So again, super cool little tool that allow you to look behind the curtain of some of the data that's inside of Revit. It's not always the easiest to get access to, and maybe not as easy as to get access to all of it in one place at one time. So now we're going to take a look at our family processor. And to do some family processing, we need to have a family. So I'm going to go back into my furniture, and I'm going to add in a component. Let's say my chair. So I select the chair. I say edit family. It's going to open the family editor. We've got our lovely chair here. Now that I'm inside the family editor, I can go back to my IMAGINiT tools, family processor, open it up, and it opens up this dialog box. So what I want to do is I want some actions. So we can edit the shared parameters file, we can delete material, we can add material, we can change material, we can add a family parameter, we can add a shared parameter, we can replace parameters. For me, the big benefit here, as I mentioned talking a little bit earlier, is those shared parameter files. So I select shared parameters, select the one or ones that you want to add. So I'm going to add a replace, it's a yes, no, and then add selected parameters. So it's in there. You can choose where you want it to go. I'm a big fan of the other down at the very bottom, but you can choose whatever is appropriate for what you need. Do I want it to be an instance case? In this case, I do. Add to actions list. So now I've got my actions list, current family only, process. I get a little pop-up that shows up on your screen that says, hey, you've done, show results, successfully added. I'm going to close out of this, load into project, overwrite, select my chair, replace, no, approved, yes, demo, maybe. But we were able to quickly throw that into place and see what we've got in there. If I select my table, so we've got nothing in there, so I could do the same thing with my table. I could select it, edit family, go to my IMAGINiT, choose my family processor, actions. This time I'm going to add them both in here. Add, oops. Add, make them both instant. Okay, actions. Now, I could say okay, and we're off to the races, and that would be done. But what if we have an entire file of other families that we want to have the same thing added to? Wouldn't it be great if we could do that all with just a couple of simple clicks instead of opening up 20 families and doing this? This is faster than the old way, but having to open up 20 families is still a bit of a bother. Well, we're one step ahead of you with our multi-families. So I select multi-families, choose search for families. A little dialog box pops up. So in this case, I'm going to browse to tables. So this is all the families that are in that folder. I'm going to select all of those families and select all first. Add all of the families in here. So now they've all been added to the list. Where, come on. Browse. There we go. Select all. Add families. And then just hiding under here is the select, which is what I was looking for. So there are all of those ones. So now it's going to run the process of adding these two shared parameters to all of these. Say process families. It's going behind the scenes and making all of that magic happen. I get a little pop-up on the other side that tells me that it's been processed. I say show results. Everything was successful. Yay. Close, close, load back into project. And let me insert architecture component, place family, load family. Yes, thank you. I need to go to the location where I stored them all. That's why I don't find them under tables. And you can see we've got them updated. Desk and coffee table. Desk. Coffee table. And there we go. Ta-da! We now have our, this is not approved, but it is going to be replaced. I say okay, and we're off to the races. So we were able to apply that to all of those families inside of that folder very quickly, and now we can apply them in. Those shared parameters are put into place. Very cool tool. All right. Place the families along a curve. So if I go in here, and I'm going to go to architecture, and I'm going to do the sin of sins and use a model line, and I'm going to draw a spline. All funky like. Hit enter. Go back to my tools. Place families along a curve. Dialog box will pop up. We select whatever we want to add to it. So let's say my desk. Choose the curve. I want to place them every millimeters, 1,000 millimeters. Place. There we go. Maybe with a desk I didn't want 1,000 millimeters. Maybe I wanted something a little bit different. So let's undo that. Maybe we want to, I'm going to just rotate this. And we go back to the same instance, place family. Maintain rotation along the curve. Evenly distributed along the curve. Let's say 5. Select the curve. And there we go. So we were able to do that. And again, curve doesn't mean curve. It really just means any line. So the same thing, if I wanted to put this chair. I could go down, same thing, place family. Now, you probably wouldn't do what I'm about to do, but it's a good demonstration. Select family, select the curve, 2500. There we go. So we've placed them along the wall. Again, you wouldn't do that, but you can see that it doesn't have to be a spline that you created. It can be any line that you've got inside the project that you can select and put your family based on that curve. The block creator. So we select the block creator. It's going to scan for any note blocks that are already created. If you don't have one, there is one that comes with utilities that you can load into place. So before I do that, if I go to, just get out of here, go to annotate, go to symbol, and you'll see we've got the note block creator annotation, and I'm just going to throw that into place here. Number of leaders, 1, and I'm just going to pick a random spot. Let's say here. So there we go. I can now move it and adjust it. So now that I've put that into view, it's an additional thing I can add through my note creator. IMAGINiT, note block creator, so it's going to process. You may also likely do this on a sheet as well, but when in Rome, or a floor plan as the case may be. So we can choose what we want. We're in the layout. You can see there's nothing there. So there's one of them that exists. There's no note, no number. Well, now I can add that. Number 33. Door to be removed. Add block. Where do I want to put it? Let's put it on our, just floor plan's fine. Say okay. 5, okay. All right, close. So we now know that it's number 33. I go to the sheet I chose, which was the floor plan. Entry-level furniture plan layout notes, number 33, door to be removed. And unfortunately, it's not linked to this view, or is it outside the crop region? Yes. So close to getting that right. But we do see that we have the proper one. If I'd gone to furniture view, then we would see it pop up. But you see the idea. We were able to create that information, apply the note. We can, of course, select it and move it if we want to be to a different location. And we've got that information in place. The match instance parameters. So I'm going to go back to my first floor plan. Let's see, I'm going to select this door, sill height, 250 by. So the first thing that happens is I'm just going to move this tag, but you'll notice we can now see that we're stepping over a wall. Not very cool, but all the rest of these doors, which are the same type, you'll see that we are not. So therefore, the sill is at 0. And just to verify, we select, and the sill height is at 0. So now we use the matched instance parameter tool. We select this, select our source. So that would be this one. So it pulls all the information that's available. If you only want to see information that's editable, we can do that as well. So we can select our editable information. We can choose which information we want through our filter, but in this case, I'm just going to leave it because it's just the sill height that I want. So now I want to select all of my targets. So I want all instances in this view. Choose target instances. There are 21 that are the same 0915 by 2134 door. I say OK. It processes, you can quickly see that all those doors that are the same now have that sill height. The doors that aren't the same don't have that sill height. There we go. So we have it put into place, and we were able to kick that out. Now, if I go back in here just one more time and select that, and there we go. 150, 150, all 150. So that's what the match instance parameters does. 5 minutes, 2 left to go. I just might make this happen. So now we're going to take a look at our, close out these. We're going to take a look at the fire rating. So we select fire rating. I'm going to choose all. And now it shows all of our information that has fire rating in it. And we can choose what it is that we want to do. So we see we've got 20 minutes here, and it says an hour. I'm going to change this to 2 hours. And then I'm going to update all. And then I get to choose what is it that I want to update. So all the unmatched hosts, all of the hosts, all of the selected hosts. I'm going to say all the hosts. Actually, I guess I could just do it here. 2 hours. Okay. And now they all have a 2-hour fire rating. Very cool little feature that lets you get into your fire rating fun. And the last one, once this lets me out, I go into my mechanical drawing. And we're going to talk about, underneath the MEP tools, the fabricated item numbering. And the issue here is that sometimes the automatic numbering isn't right, isn't the way we want things to look inside of the site. And as we look inside of here, you can see that these, number 3, number 4, number 7, are the same piece of duct, same length, same type. So they should be the same. And you'll see that these are the same angle, and they're not the same. So we can take those rules into place, which are looked after through our fabricated numbering system. We select this. We choose where we want to start the numbering from. So I'm going to choose here. Then we can choose how we want to number. So number all parts attached to this item. Pick what you want to choose. So I'm going to say all attached to this item. It brings up a little dialog box that says what's our starting number, reuse numbers of similar parts, as well as all of the pieces that have come into play. In this case, I'm going to keep it simple and start at 1. Say OK. It goes through the process. And now you'll see that we've got 2, 2, 2, that these two are the same, but this one is the same pipe, but it has a different offset. So therefore, it is, in fact, a different number because some of the specs are a little bit different. But these two are exactly the same, and the pieces are exactly the same. So it allows us to take that information if you're working with the fabricating part system and make sure that our numbering system matches what we actually want it to be. Remember, this is the one with the little star, the little asterisk that only goes back to 2017. And with that, I bring it back to the PowerPoint slide to see if we have any questions. Gianna?
Awesome. One moment while I end today's recording.